I'm Sharon Scott Wilson. I'm a publisher of Resort Trades Magazine. Welcome. We are very happy to have as our guest today, marvelous, uncommon executive, Joe Nahman, and we'll get more into his introduction in a second. Last week on our Trades Lunch Bunch, we had Susie Morrison. She's a former CTO for Nordis and is just known throughout the vacation ownership for her IT expertise. So if you missed it, go look on YouTube, our Resort Trades channel, easy to find, and please do us a favor while you're there and yourselves so you don't miss any other presentations in which you might be interested, and hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you'll get notifications when there's been a new YouTube post. So you've probably seen, well, hopefully you've seen this month's issue of Resort Trades has that's the November issue. Inside, there's an article written by John Loker, Joe Nahman, an uncommon executive, and we're about to find out how it is that Joe is uncommon. I've known Joe for many years now, and I've always been impressed by his professionalism. He operates RMC Resort Management, along with Epic Vacations, Resort Source, Hilton Head Accommodations. So he's got a lot of arms. But today, Joe is prepared to share some ideas about resales, which I know is a very prevalent industry in our industry. But before we get started, I wanted to know a little bit about you, who's joining us today. And you'll see on your side panel under poll, you have a choice between board member, on-site manager, or other industry professional. So if you will kindly answer that. And welcome to Robert Woodward and John Loker. Appreciate y'all joining us. So as we wait for the results to come in, Joe, perhaps you'd like to go ahead.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you for having me today, Sharon. I have to say it's really an honor to address the audience today. I've enjoyed listening in and watching the webinars you've put on for the last several months. It really helps, I think, to connect the industry and keep us all together during these uncertain times. So thank you to you and SPI for putting this all together for us. As you indicated, I've been in business in the industry for about 30 years, and we've been providing critical services to legacy homeowner associations during that point in time. So that includes resort management, resales, vacation rentals, and the creation of limited term vacation products. So today I'm going to be addressing resales, very broad topic. So my goal is to do three things. I want, number one, to give you, those folks that are joining us, a 30,000 foot view of the most important things managers and board members should be thinking about today as it relates to resales. I want to provide actionable takeaways that you can bring back to your resort experience. These are things learned along the way through successes and through mishaps. So maybe I can help you guys to avoid some things and speed up your learning curve. And I would say that anyone wanting more details is encouraged to reach out to me. There'll be a lot of information. So Sharon has graciously put my contact information on these slides.
Well, thank you, Joe. Before we proceed, the answer to the previous poll question was 88% of our audience are others, and we have 11% are on-site managers, which is great. We're glad to have you guys. be sure and post your questions whenever you want on the chat line, and we'll cover them, if not during the procedure or presentation itself, at the end. And we have another poll question. Is your resort self-managed, managed by a management company, managed by a developer, or others? So I'll let you know what those answers are a little later on.
Great. Well, let's get started. I'm going to change the slide, and this will be some bullet points I'll talk through. So it's a fact, and I think you've all experienced this, that owners really consider, every single one of them, at one time or another, how to divest themselves of their timeshare. So it's really important for you to have a method in place to help them, and something that's smooth and effective. Today, most purchasers, we've actually found, really want to hear about this at the time of sale or prior to buying. They want to know, do you have an active program in place? And if I invest here at your resort, will there be a way for me to divest when I'm done? So once again, viable secondary market, big selling point. And although boards understand, and you on-site managers on the call understand how important new owners are to the lifeblood of your resort, starting a resale program can be a little daunting. So the first thing I want you to do is talk to your management company if you're affiliated with one. Most management companies either provide resales or they have a trusted partner that does, so they can help you with that. You see the first point on here, your resale provider is a critical member of your team, right? And they're really valuable, particularly today. There's valuable as your attorney, CPA, reserve specialist, or even your manager. You all want to be at the table together making decisions in today's environment. So I want you to begin by considering that you need to embrace a professional sales approach. Some resorts have a local realtor or two that are selling for them in town. Some have an affiliation with a website or someone in the lobby to assist with buying and selling. And these are really good start, right? It's first start, good thing to do. But these really only take you so far. Like other discretionary luxury items, although timeshare is bought, it's more often sold. So you need to have a way to sell it in a professional sales environment. It's much more likely that a person who learns about the benefits of ownership at your resort in a structured professional sales experience is going to buy a week than it is a person who will pick up a list of units for sale at the front desk and make a decision on their own. So this is most easily attained, a resale program that is, by engaging a third-party resale company, but I understand that's not feasible at some resorts, and if it isn't at yours, you can attain similar results by implementing some of the following techniques. So you look at the bullet points here. We want to create a budget line item for sales and marketing. Like any other serious endeavor your HOA gets involved in, you're going to need to commit financially to resales. Not a lot, but enough to move the needle, right? Your provider, if you have one, will cover most of the cost. You'll need to cover some, and if you don't have a program, you're going to have a bit of a budget. Now, how to budget is a topic of another conversation and presentation, but suffice to say, you should be prepared to invest at least a little bit in some advertising, printing, improvements to a sales space, which I'll get into in a little while, people, and some technology. So, proven methods. You see the bullet point about adopting a developer's best sales practices. Most owners actually bought their vacation from a developer at a developer sales presentation, and regardless of the experience, they love their ownership for decades. So what is it you can learn from that? Developers have the sales process down to an art, and owner-controlled HOAs, I think, can take away the best practices and insert them into your programs. Some of these in the bullet points below include outbound marketing. right? You need to be sure everyone coming to your resort is aware you have weeks for sale. And for the sake of expediency, I'll assume you already have a plan in place to communicate resale opportunities with your owners. If you don't, feel free to contact me for more information. But the basics for communicating with non-owners who are your best prospects include, first, a pre-arrival reservation confirmation mailer that speaks about the resort and their check-in experience, but also includes information about the fact that there are ownership opportunities available at your resort. Second, a courtesy call to non-owners prior to arrival. And this is not a sales call. This is simply directions to the resort, hours, what to bring and not to bring, that type of thing, with the marketing person who makes the call introducing themselves by name and saying, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, I'll see you at check-in. Then the same marketing person who made the calls actually will be at check-in at your resort, not selling anything, but offering concierge type assistance, familiarizing the guest with the resort and with themselves, making guests aware of local activities and restaurants and so on, and saying, by the way, I will be contacting you, and however you do that, by phone or knock on the door or something like that, I'm going to contact you to invite you to some special VIP events we have on property this week, and also ask you if you're interested in a VIP vacation ownership preview. So you gained a little bit of a rapport, so the people are more likely to be receptive to what you're talking about. So we talk about these VIP events, easy social events that most of you do anyway. Meet the manager, right? Wine and cheese, owner's breakfast, that type of thing. Basically a social atmosphere where guests can mix and mingle and can meet your marketing person or people in a low pressure situation. And of course here, you are going to be asking people what time is best for them and talking to them somewhat about the gifting and the incentives. That's the next bullet point on the list. And like it or not, prospective owners have been conditioned at this day and age to expect some type of thank you gift in return for their time on vacation. You're asking them to spend an hour or so with you. And we found most often people won't come in without some type of compensation in the form of a gift because they're used to getting that elsewhere. But more importantly for you, when you're trying to sell your HOA weeks, a lot more people will come if you do have gifts. And yes, of course, most people only come for the gift, so you build that into your marketing costs. But remember, the more people that come, the greater opportunity you have to share all the wonderful things that are going on at your resort, everything you have to offer, the special values. And the wider the audience, the more chance you're going to have success. You don't know who's not interested today, but who might have a child who's interested, or might have a relative or a friend or something like that who might want a unit next to theirs, something along those lines. So talking about the gifts and incentives, the most popular are dinners at local restaurants, golf or lift tickets or whitewater rafting, whatever the amenities are in your area. Always popular are American Express and Visa gift cards. Now, those do have a cost to them, of course, and you'll have to decide whether or not that's in your budget. And if it isn't, don't worry. Please, if you're particularly one of the on-site managers or board members on the call, there's lots of valuable perceived value items that have low cost or no cost that HOAs can provide. So follow along if you might. How about a waiver of some type on your maintenance fee? It's billing season. You can offer people some type of credit on their account at a level that makes sense to you if they want to come to a presentation. And actually you can offer a bigger credit on their account if they end up buying something, if they're already an owner there. You can offer credits on other things that you charge for at your property that mean something to people, like your housekeeping. You can offer to refund their housekeeping. You can give them a credit at your on-site convenience store, sundry shop, your water slide, whatever it is on site that you take care of or the HOA owns. There's a perceived value there that's more than the actual value. So that's something nice for you to give people that they would appreciate. You can add free nights to their stay if it makes sense for you. Right now, a lot of resorts are in off season, so you might have units that are owned by the HOA. How about letting somebody who comes on a presentation stay Saturday night or Sunday night if it's not going to cost you anything anyway? Deep discounts on future rentals. How about getting these people back at a time that makes sense to you when you have the space available at no loss to you? Not during your rental season, but let's say, for example, in February or January, if you're in a cooler climate, you have space available, they can have a discount of maybe half or a third off, something like that. Along those lines, you can also offer a certificate, right? Christmas is coming. How about giving your people that tour a gift they can put into their friend and relative stockings that allow them a 3-day, 2-night stay at your resort? And you can decide whether or not there are costs involved with that, perhaps the cleaning or something along those lines, but they would be required to attend a presentation. But let's get them down here when you have those villas empty. Vacation certificates from your exchange company. The exchange companies are great about this. RCI particularly gives away some nice, maybe they don't give them away, I'm sorry, that there'll be some cost perhaps to you, but there are certificates for last minute inventory, and there are other vacation rental programs at a deep discount, and these are really reasonable for you to give away. RCI makes it easy for you to attain these, and Interval has certificates like that as well. So now you've met the people, you've gained their rapport, you have offered them some type of enticement for their time as a thank you gift. You're on to the formal presentation, and a couple points I want to make about this. We don't have really enough time for me to go through a presentation for you, but I want you to understand that high pressure sales tactics are really no longer effective. Today's consumer is really looking for more of a respectful, informative interaction. So please do put together an in-depth discovery process, and again, contact me for more information on that if you like, but basically you need to ask the right questions. What is it you can solve for these people that you're talking to? How can you best meet their vacationing needs? Ask the right questions, listen carefully, so you can match people with a product that best fits the way they want to vacation. So if you get somebody who purchases what it is they want, they're happy with, they're more likely to stay with you and be happy and refer you. So most resale purchasers' motivations, or all purchasers for that matter, fall into one of the following categories, right? It's a need for more or less space than they have now, a different season maybe, different floor plan, more trading power, more flexibility. Maybe they want an adjacent unit. A lot of times we're finding people who want to downsize, they want a lower fee. They have empty nests now, they don't need 3 bedrooms, 1 is enough. So please take that into consideration and make sure you're asking the right questions. Let's talk about financing for a moment. Today's consumer wants a pay over time option, and just be reflective upon this. You do too, right? I mean, some people want to go pay for a car in cash or a large item like that, but most people are interested in what's the monthly payment and how does that compare to if I paid it on my credit card. This is a topic, again, of another presentation, but I want you to understand that if you or your resale provider has financing solution, it will increase your sales exponentially. It just makes it so much easier for people to buy when you're talking about $99 a month as compared to $3,000. It's just a much easier sale. So before we leave this slide, let's talk about today's consumers, and you have to understand what they're looking for and make sure that you're adapting your offerings appropriately. Super important. There's been a lot of research out there, and most people who are savvy enough to be on the call today probably seen or heard of most of it, but Gen X and millennials are not interested in their parents' timeshare. They have a lot of fantastic memories there. They perceive them as too inflexible, however, maybe too restricting, too expensive, or could be all of those. So rethink the value proposition at your resort. And thankfully, the brands have done an amazing job of educating consumers on the benefits of a points-based product. As you know or may not know, right? Flexibility, great locations, custom stay length, ancillary travel options, loyalty programs. These are what people are coming across at any brand name timeshare they visit or get a call or offer or mailer or email from. So these things make your parents' timeshare look even more outdated and unattractive when you get them. The quickest, most efficient way to offer flexibility and benefits like this, the ones that people are looking for today, is to adopt your exchange company's points platform. Well, we're big fans of RCI points. They're simple, powerful, and customers really enjoy them. Interval has a great program as well. Please ask your representatives how you can get involved in those, what the benefits are, how they would mesh in with your particular resort and your ownership plan. We have a, sorry, Sharon, one more thing before you give me the hook. We have a limited term ownership I want to talk about for a moment. It's today's most sought after benefit, and you ask yourself why? Well, it offers a guaranteed end date to ownership, and this is something people are looking for. When you end your ownership at a certain period of time, the industry's calling this a term product, and I'm sure most of you on the phone get that, but these membership terms typically run between 5 and 20 years at the member's choice. At the end of the term, you have the choice of whether or not you want to walk away or you want to renew. So the customer's in control the whole time, which really helps us overcome the biggest objection, which is, I hear you can never get rid of a timeshare. Well, where do they hear that? It's in all the media, all the folks that are out there advertising these exit programs are pushing that. Think about it though, term products actually get rid of themselves. So it solves that problem for you. Now, I don't want to make it sound overly simple, because implementing a term product is much easier said than done. It is time consuming and complex and so on. It is better left to an expert, but please ask your manager the best way for you to adopt a limited term sales strategy, because it really is the way of the future.
Well, Joe, I just wanted to interject that we have another poll question that I hope people could just put an answer to. Is, do you currently have a resale program? Does your resort have one? And simply yes or no. And other than that, I will let you get on with it.
Fantastic. Here we go to the next slide. So do's and don'ts. I promised you a good list of these. And so let me kind of run through these for you, giving a little bit of color to each one. Creating a professional sales environment in which to transact business. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. And I want you to understand this is really upgrading or remodeling an existing office or room adjacent to a high traffic area at your resort. And I'm talking about refresh, I'm talking about proper lighting, floor covering, furniture, paint, big screen television, things like that. Just some modern touches and help the folks to be comfortable and have the idea they're in a sales environment. Now, of course, how far you go with this depends on the extent of your program, of course, and how much staff you have and things like that. Have consistent and continual messaging. So this means from your board to your members about the importance of the resale program to the ongoing success of your resort. So it's important that the members understand that the board and the Owners Association is behind this, how important it is for all of us to have a way to move on from our timeshare that makes sense and isn't harmful to the resort. And it is something that should absolutely be started next week if you're not already doing that. So exit scams, I won't get too much into that, but it's what a big problem that is. People are falling prey to that quite a bit, particularly these days, and usually after any kind of economic issues. Continually share information with your constituents on what to look for, how to avoid these. If they have any questions, to call the management company and talk through, There are some legitimate deals out there, but as we know, most of them are not. So you want to be careful to make sure people are double checking with you, because that protects them, of course, but when they're protected, your HOA is protected. So make it easy for owners to sell weeks on their own. You really need to prepare and pre-arrange an easy escrow and title solution so that when people are out there selling on their own, and remember, you have a program, but along with your program, owners will be trying to sell to their friends and family, which is helping the resort. So these units will not become owned by the HOA. You want them to be able to transfer properly at a reasonable price by trusted professionals. So offering a free deed change, this idea actually came from one of my VIP resort board members at an association that's hired my company to represent them in sales and marketing. So shout out goes to them for a great idea. And this is where the HOA volunteers to pay the cost involved when owners transfer title to a family member or to, I'd say immediate family member. So it could be a child, or it could be brother, sister, uncle, cousin, somebody like that. But it encourages people to do this. Think about that. Right now, there are people coming together for Thanksgiving and Christmas that don't know how to pass the timeshare week along. They're going to talk about it amongst themselves. Somebody asked their roommate or their neighbor who stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night and doesn't know how to do it because they're not really a real attorney. They decide it's too difficult, and they may abandon the week instead of pass it on. They may become delinquent and cause you to chase them and foreclose. So if you have a free method, they trust the resort can tell them, hey, if you want to change it over to your child's name, get a hold of us. We'll take care of the expense. We have the professionals lined up. And I tell my boards that, listen, the few $100s it costs you to do this is a much better investment than a few thousand to do the foreclosure and the couple of years of maintenance fees you're going to miss out on during the foreclosure process, or while you're trying to figure out if they're going to pay or not. So next, use unproductive inventory to your advantage. HOA off-season weeks, I alluded to before, they're just sitting there. And if you can't rent them, let's get people in there for 3-night stays that require a sales presentation. Silver lining here is what? Well, if they're in an HOA-owned week, it's for sale. And if they like it, you can sell them the one they're in right now, and you can actually take their rental that they paid you and apply it to the purchase price. So you have a lot of incentive to, and so do they, to make a purchase. Realistic expectations are really important. Selling timeshare, you all know, is not easy, and it gets more difficult every day. Those critical owners have a realistic idea of how long it's going to take to sell. Keep in mind, they typically assume there's a strong demand for their week, as was the case when they bought it, and they get angry when a sale doesn't materialize right away. They're all hearing about how the real estate market is the white hot and everybody's buying homes right away, and they're all used to having their realtor call them once a week and talk about how their listing is doing. And none of that happens in timeshare. So if they're not given realistic expectations, you're going down the wrong road. You're going to get somebody who's going to be upset with you. More importantly, proactively encourage your owners in advance to think about sale before it's time. So you all know, that they're going to wait a couple of years too long before they decide to put it up for sale. It's really hard to get rid of something that you've had such wonderful memories with. They're going to wait a year and they don't come. The next year, somebody has bad health or travel plans change, grandchildren, whatever, and they haven't been to the resort a couple of years now. They're going to call you and want to list it. And as you all know, it's going to take a little while to sell it. So now maybe you're into the third year and haven't used it. They become extremely susceptible to default of your maintenance fee and also exit scams. Every month you wait to list it, that's another 4 or 5 postcards or billboards that are going to drive past. So please encourage them to suggest a few years to list a few years in advance. If they do this, the worst thing that can happen is you sell their week for them now, and they have a few $1,000s in their pocket perhaps, that they can use to rent at your resort a few times until they decide they no longer want to come. Referral network, really important. You got to think that most potential purchasers own a week elsewhere that they would like to or need to sell prior to purchasing at your resort. So it will help you with the sale if you know professionals that sell in other markets, particularly the bigger markets where most people own timeshare. So you can refer your clients to some of these professionals that are trusted to take care of their selling of their other units for them. And the best resource I know about for this is the Licensed Timeshare Resale Brokers Association. There's maybe 30 to 50 members across the country. They all specialize in different, mostly brands, but different types of timeshares in different locations. They have a great code of ethics, and they do a nice job of self-policing amongst one another. So Licensed Timeshare Resale Brokers.org is a good place to look. Sharon, anything else before I move on to the don'ts?
Sorry about that, a little tardy. No, we did have a couple of questions from the audience, but if you want to finish up your don'ts, and then we'll get on to that. How's that?
We'll do it that way. Okay, don'ts are pretty short. Please do not prioritize the sale of your HOA weeks at the expense of owner resales. You don't want to be perceived as by owners as being in competition with them. Remember, they're trying to sell on their own, but they've also listed with you. And if they feel the HOA is selling their own weeks first or at artificially lower prices, the owners could become disgruntled, and guess what? They abandon their week, and then the HOA owns it anyway. So sell through as many channels as you can. And remember, your buyer should purchase the week that makes the most sense to them after your discovery. So you don't want them necessarily being steered towards the one that's owned by the HOA. You want them being steered to the one that best fits, which may indeed be owned by an owner. And please do not publish a list of weeks for sale at low prices. Now, it's okay to run specials and advertise limited time discounts, seasonal sales and things like that on certain units that you want to sell. But when you start publishing lists of 15 weeks or let's just say 4 or 5 weeks even during the units during the same week, and you have a long list of 4 or 5 units in every unit, in each unit available each week for a period of time or over the year even, what happens? You have these prices in circulation, and automatically the value of all the weeks for sale at your resort are going to fall to the lowest published price on your sheet or your publication forever, right? People are going to hold on to this for 5 or 10 years, put it in their file, and it doesn't matter that your sheet says that weeks are available from 500 to 5,000. All it matters is that you said 500. So someone's going to walk into your office 2 years from now, and you're going to have a week for sale in the middle of your high season, and they're going to want to pay 500 for it. So perceived value, really critical. If somebody sees something available for sale that's similar to something they own, but it's at a fraction of the price they paid, they lose confidence in that, and they lose confidence in their ability to sell it sometime in the future. So if you've got this list floating around of $500 weeks, well, that's probably less than your maintenance fee, and it's absolutely less than most of your owners are trying to sell their unit for. So when your owners sit back and think about whether they should pay their maintenance fee next year, and they remember that you're selling weeks for 500 and theirs is listed for 2,000 or 3,000, it's just that the economics aren't right. It doesn't work out that way. And ultimately, what I want you to take away from this is that it's your responsibility as managers and board members to not only sell the inventory, but protect the price integrity. Sharon, I'm ready for you now.
At last. Well, firstly, John Loker had a question. He said, should you only offer resales, or should you create or find a club program as an option?
Well, it certainly depends a lot on your location and the level of expertise amongst your group. But I mentioned earlier that I think everybody should get involved with a program like an RCI Points or the Interval program that's similar, because it allows the owners, the new owners, to have options that are similar to the programs that developers are advertising and marketing today. So when you bring that program on, you can decide whether or not you're going to sell only a points product, or you're going to sell a points upgrade product that people can add on to their existing ownership, or you sell just a choice of points and or the fixed product itself. There's still plenty of people that really enjoy a fixed week. They bought it because they like the unit, the view, and they want to be there that particular week. That's their vacation time, and that's not going to end. It's just dwindling a bit.
Well, great. There's another question. Joe, great ideas you've presented. Can you share your thoughts about what, if any, usage restrictions resorts should place on secondary market purchases? Good question.
Use restrictions. Well, not particularly, unless you have a floating product and you're selling a season. You're selling maybe a let's say the bronze season or the off season. You may want to consider as an advantage. I've talked to some of my clients about what makes the bronze season attractive, because the bronze season in effect pays the same maintenance fee as the platinum season. Well, it might be more attractive if it had other perceived value to it. It came with perhaps a subsidized maintenance fee or a subsidized exchange company fee, or maybe if you have a program where your owners can rent HOA inventory. A lot of resorts have a bonus week program like that today. Perhaps your bronze owners or your lower season owners can be offered 2 tickets to that game, where everybody else gets 1, or maybe they get a look at the inventory a little bit earlier than the other folks, so that there is some reason to own during that time. So I hope that answered your question about restrictions. I think I talked more about benefits and things to add, but if you'd like to clarify the question now or via email, I'll be happy to get into more detail with you.
All right, so another great question from Paul Shawstead. Who are your main purchasers, current timeshare owners or brand new purchasers? And do you offer upgrades to existing owners?
Paul, thank you. We do. We do quite a good business in upgrades, and the upgrades have to do with getting into either the term product or the a points product if people don't already have that. Both of those are new to a lot of people. The lion's share, however, of the customers are actually non-owners. These are people who are coming to the 9 or 10 resorts that we sell at for the first time, and they've never been there before, and it's new and fresh, and they really enjoy it, and they want to know how they can become part of the ownership family there. Remember, at your resort, your owners most likely have been around for a while, and they've watched the resort improve over the years. They've also seen the maintenance fee increase over the years, and so whatever level it's at now is more than what it was when they bought it. But a non-owner, Paul, they're coming in with a fresh perspective, and they probably just came from, or likely have come from recently, a presentation at one of the big brand properties that have very expensive maintenance fees because they have brand new, lovely locations and wonderful programs. So at your legacy resort, your fee that seems higher than it used to be to your old owner probably seems lower than what the non-owner has seen before. So someone who trades in through one of the exchange companies or rents at your property will most likely look at your fee as a great bargain. And we see that day in and day out with the numbers on the sales floor.
Well, that's great. Robert Woodward wants to know, do you find yourself in competition with local major brands or do you partner with their owners to help create a resales opportunity for them?
A little of both. We actually list and sell close to 50 resorts. Many of them are developer affiliated. Some of the developers look to have a third-party reseller because they want their sales floor to concentrate on their frontline product, which is indeed their new product that's beautiful and shiny and new. And they prefer that professionals like us and other resale companies are helping owners who are looking to spend less money but still get involved at their properties. We're fortunate. We're in a market right now where we also have two of the most successful and probably best regional type developers in the country right here in our backyard. So we sell a lot of their products, and mostly for their individual owners, but it is it is wonderful because it brings to us a wide variety of customers and allows us to have pretty much some kind of product for everybody.
And I have another question. How much should we budget for a resale program?
Good question. And a little bit of that's dependent upon your needs. Like if you do need to refurbish a sales room, if you're doing the sales yourself or you have a partner, most often your partner is going to pick up a lot of the costs, but I generally counsel boards to think about 1% to 2% of your annual budget. And of course, if you got a huge budget, that could be too much, but you're thinking about, as I mentioned earlier, printing and in-room advertising and flyers for the elevator and your ice cream and wine and cheese and all those kind of things you have at your social. So it's not a fortune, but it is enough to generate momentum.
Okay. Well, how do you suggest a resort starts a gifting program?
Gifting program. Well, the easiest thing to do if you do not have a professional resale relationship is think about, as the manager or board member, where do you like to go when you're in town? Are there local restaurants or watering holes or activities or events that you enjoy? And simply, the next time you're in there or you make a special trip, you go there and say, I represent such and such a resort. We see so many thousands of guests and owners a year. I'd like to make an arrangement with you where we can enjoy the discount that you're already giving through Groupon or restaurant.com or anything like that by putting that offer on our letterhead or our coupons and including it in a gift basket. So if you're starting out from scratch and you really don't have a budget, that you can gather up a bunch of really nice discounts. Most restaurants at one time or another are giving buy one, get one through Groupon or restaurant.com. A lot of places give a free appetizer, free house wine, all the things like that are a little better than nothing. And if you add them together and add a restaurant pack or an activity pack, you might get 4 or 5 of those together and end up with a perceived value of enough that is attractive to folks that want to come in and talk to you.
Oh, great ideas. How do you suggest that your resorts communicate your program, your resale availability? I know you touched on that a little bit earlier, but like frequency of communiques and what types of, is it all social media or in-room emails or what?
The answer is every existing channel should include that information. So everything from emails that go out to the billing package, the check-in material, pre-arrivals, the newsletter. There ought to be a blurb or a coupon or an offer or a mention, particularly when your president writes a letter to the owners. That's when he or she gives the board support to the program and mentions it and gives contact information. We really feel like everybody eventually, as I mentioned in my opening comments, is at some point in time going to consider selling. So you want them to know they can trust you to do it for them, and there is a way to do it so that they don't fall prey to other options.
Oh, that's good. So how does someone get started with exchange companies' points programs?
That's as easy as reaching out to your account executive. And if you're a board member, you talk to your management agent or your management team on site. They'll know who to contact and get a hold of. These folks at the exchange companies really want to help you. It's good business for them, and they will send you all kinds of information. They'll come down and train your staff. You get great web portals and a lot of the materials that you need. It really is just taking that first step, making the call. All the time. It's a process. They're going to want to inspect your property, ask you questions. They're going to do some analysis and value in their system what your points are worth. But I highly suggest that it's really a way to help some of the existing owners get better benefits, but make your place attractive to all of the prospective members that are out there.
Well, Joe, thank you so much. This has been incredible amount of information, and it really is like Resales 101. And by means of this session, I'd like to ask John Loker to follow up with me and think about a follow-up article to put into Resort Trades with your cooperation, of course, Joe. So again, if you haven't read John Loker's article in the trades, you can find it on resorttrades.com. And this brings us pretty much to the end of our session today. If there aren't any more questions, we will be posting this later, of course, on YouTube, and it will make it very available through social media and all of our channels. And I would encourage you, stay in tune with us on YouTube, subscribe, hit that bell icon. Don't miss what's going on in your industry because you're an influencer and you need to be there. So next Friday at 1 o'clock also Eastern, my husband Tim Wilson and I are going to launch a kind of a new chat session. It's going to be a little more informal about marketing, and we're calling it Resort Marketing Made Easy, but I think that is a total misnomer, and I may change that title. But at any rate, please join us, and be sure to leave your comments and your ideas on the YouTube comments section. Just go to resorttrades.com/learning center to register. So again, thank you, Joe, for your wonderful presentation, so info-packed.
My pleasure.
And so to our audience, we thank you too for joining us.
Have a nice weekend.
You too. Thank you.